Hey guys, it's Chris with Wild Country Meats, and today on Learn to be a Butcher, I'm going to show you how to take a boneless chuck roll and cut it to display in your retail meat case. I'm going to get chuck eye steaks out of it. I'm going to get some Denver steaks. I'm going to get some chuck roast, chuck steaks. I'm going to go ahead and continue to cut back and show you how to get some stew meat and then, of course, trim for your ground chuck. So the first thing I do is obviously got to find out where we're at in this chuck. So here is the chuck eye. So the rib eye goes this direction, and the beef comes this way. The head of the animal is up here. So this is the actual neck, and then it comes down in here to the chuck eye and then the rib eye. I always start on the chuck eye side. I'm going to come in and I'm going to cut about 6 to 8 inches of this chuck eye off. And of course, across the top, you're going to see this little bone skin here. I'm going to trim that off. And we have a bone collection system, and so it pulls any of the bone or the gristle off that you're going to want to take. You're probably not going to want to get that in your grind. Get that off the top of that. So now I've got this chuck eye here, and then I've got this area down here where I'm going to cut my Denver steak. So I'm going to come in and I'm going to peel this. You're going to see I'm going to peel this right here at this seam. Try to do this a little bit backwards so you can see it on the camera. And this is my chuck eye. Poor man's rib eye. You can see there I peeled that right off. So I've got my chuck eye steak here. Then I'm going to come in here and get me a couple Denver steaks. A little bit of that fat off the top. Again, all this trim we're going to use for ground chuck. Now I like to cut my chuck eye steaks about 1 inch thick. See how nice, pretty those are. And usually I'd like to say that we can get about 3 to 4 nice chuck eye steaks. And it looks like on this one, we're going to get about 3 really good ones. Again, that's going to go for my ground chuck. That's my chuck eye steaks. It's a good secondary cut, a great steak. It's very tender. Now I'm going to come into this area right here, and I'm going to try to get myself a couple Denver steaks. I'm going to trim that up. You see here. Trim the skin off the back. Square that up. And I might be able to get me one more. Yeah, I can probably get one more out of this. And trim that up. A couple nice little Denver steaks. Again, all this trim is going to go for ground chuck. Now I'm going to come over into the actual roast part of the chuck roll. Clean up the top of this. And I'm going to cut my chuck roast about 1.5 inches to 2 inches thick. I want to make sure that any of this skin on the top is trimmed off. It's really good roast. And I always want to display the chuck eye towards the customer. It's another really good chuck roast, chuck eye towards the customer. And here's the thing, and chuck steaks have become real popular. A lot of guys are doing burn ends with them. So if someone asks you for a chuck steak, just come in and cut at their preference. 3/4 to 1 inch thick. I've got about 1 inch on this one. That is a really nice chuck steak. If I wanted to steal some more Denver steaks, I could go ahead and take this right here. I'm not going to do that. Try to cut another roast. So you're going to notice now we're kind of, again, this is the neck. The head of the beef is up here. Going to make sure that when you come into here, I don't really like to get into much of a roast because it's kind of going across grain with the grain. But it's a good area to come in and get some good lean meat. You can see here there's still a lot of good lean meat in it. Some good stew meat. Some good stew meat. It's got some good marbling, still really good and lean. And now, what do I do with all of this? So in our store, we sell a lot of ground chuck, a lot of 80% lean hamburger meat. And this It's still a lot of good lean meat. And so I'm going to chunk it up. Because again, we go through a ton of ground chuck here at the store, and it doesn't get any better than the neck on that chuck roll. So you're going to see I've got a couple chuck steaks. I could have cut another roast if I wanted to. Got a couple Denver steaks. Got some chuck eyes. Some really nice chuck roast. So I want to tell you a story about the chuck roll. And we always have guys that come in, they're looking for a job. Hey, I'm a butcher. Do you guys need any help? I'll always ask them about their experience, and they'll tell me, hey, I've cut meat at the local grocery store, at a restaurant, and I'll ask them, I say, can you cut a chuck roll? It's the first question that I ask everyone that tells me that they're a meat cutter. So, hey, if you're going to learn to be a butcher, you need to learn to cut the chuck roll first and make sure that you cut it well. So, again, I hope you enjoyed this video. And if you would, hit subscribe, hit subscribe, hit subscribe, hit subscribe.